possible.
Exactly. All right, let's go. With me today is Jenny Taylor. Like many people, Jenny has recently finished up with her employer, but unlike most, this was not due to COVID-19. Unfortunately, Jenny has been diagnosed with a rare neurological disorder that has cut her career short. The way Jenny is embracing what most of us could never fathom is nothing short of remarkable, and I'm so glad that Jenny has agreed to share this story with us today. Welcome, Jenny, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Christy, and thank you for inviting me to share your story. Share my story.
For as long as I've known you, you've had an extremely warm and bubbly personality. So do you think that you've always been a glass half full kind of girl?
For as long as I can remember, I've always been the happy kid, always looking for the best in people, believe that people are genuinely good people and sometimes just make bad decisions. And yeah, I've always just been the happy person, the bubbly one, the wanting to just see the best in life.
Do you think that was how you were raised? Like, was that how your parents sort of brought you up?
I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm probably a lot different to the rest of my family. I'm happy to talk about feelings and all of that. So I'm probably the more bubbly out of the family, but my mum is definitely very social, if you'd like to call it that.
So I just wanted to take you back to a place that, some of us don't ever want to relive, high school.
Yes.
How were your high school years?
I hated high school.
Really?
I did not like it at all. All of my reports were just like, lovely girl, really smart, could do better if, studied. So I stayed at high school because I had to, not that I enjoyed it. So I left school 20 years ago and I have no desire to go to my 20-year school reunion.
So when you're at school, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yes, I always wanted to be a hairdresser.
Really?
Always, yes. I always loved hair, and I had my hair done this morning. So yeah, but I always wanted to be a hairdresser, which is so strange considering where I ended up professionally.
So did your high school support that ambition of wanting to be a hairdresser?
No, I was pushed academically, so I had no interest to stay at school, and my parents are both very academic. They did the whole uni thing, so there was the expectation for me to be academic when I had the ability to, but I just never actually probably lived up to the expectation. So yes, school never really supported that dream because I went to school before the whole TAFE school integration all came along where you could do extracurricular things through TAFE as part of school. So I stayed, I got my HSC, but I would have much preferred to go off and do a hairdressing apprenticeship.
Yeah. So you did go to TAFE after you finished school. Firstly, why did you not then go into hairdressing?
Probably because it wasn't an acceptable career in my family. So yeah, like I would have loved to, but it wasn't acceptable. So when I left school, when I was at school, I went to see the careers advisor to work out what I was going to do the following year. And we worked out that I liked people and I liked food. So I actually started a diploma of hospitality management when I first left school. So working on the lines of I like people and food, I soon worked out I didn't like either. I actually do have a certificate too in commercial cookery, surprisingly. I left the following year because it's just like, this is not me. This is not what I want to do. So then I went to TAFE and just did a certificate 3 in admin so I could get a job because ultimately a job was required and it was something I could do quite easily. And I knew that it would probably give me the most options in a career of as close to what was expected as possible.
So did you feel a lot of pressure growing up then?
Yeah, my brother is incredibly smart, and I probably had the same level of smartness, but I never wanted to compete with him. So I probably just sat back into the shadows of, I'll leave my brother to be the incredibly smart one, and I don't believe I can live up to that, so I'll just sit back in the shadows and cruise through.
So you went into administration, operations, and sales, working for some really large multinational organizations. So obviously that wasn't really the career path that you wanted to take, but were you happy with how that worked out?
I've never really thought of my employment history as a career path, but when you think about it, it is. Um, I always I chose the large organizations because I always wanted to work for companies that I respected, and I guess the people I worked with made more of a difference in my life than actual jobs. So it kind of fed my desire to help people, and the large organizations were a lot better for me than the smaller ones. So I worked for smaller ones and they just did not agree with me. So the large ones were definitely a better option for me.
So you don't see it as a career, but you did spend 10 years working in that field.
Yeah,
So you're obviously really skilled within that area. So what
yeah.
did you enjoy most about those roles?
Helping people. Like, I worked in a vast array of jobs over the 10 years, and I always found great joy in being able to help people, even in the most strangest of ways. Like, I remember at one job, every morning I'd go in and make coffee for everyone who was in the office early, and I just loved being able to help people with the smallest of things. So that's where I think the operations, the admin, the sales, I was always in roles where I could help people, but not really on the front line. I was always in the background and being able to help people to make them look good. So that kind of worked well for me.
So did you have ambitions of climbing the corporate ladder, or were you sort of just content with the roles that you had?
Um, I was content in a way, and I think my biggest downfall was I was too busy. Like, I would have loved to have climbed the corporate ladder into different roles with probably more responsibility and seniority, but I think my biggest downfall was I was so busy helping everyone do everything that I never actually gave people in high positions in management roles the ability to see what I was actually capable of. I was, rather just trying to help everyone and do everything rather than excelling and really showing what I was capable of doing.
So what would your advice be to people like you? Because obviously, people with bubbly personalities that want to help everybody are really integral and critical to every organization. But
Yeah.
what would you say to somebody that does sort of want to climb up and progress higher, to be able to make that sort of distinction between helping people and then being able to be that person that management looks upon favorably for promotions and so forth?
Work to your strengths. Like, yes, you can be the person that everyone goes to, but you need to work to your strengths in the role that you're employed in, and put that first, and then if you can then help people do that secondary. And like, as ridiculous as it sounds, talk yourself up to management and take the time to show them what you've done to save money, or to make a customer's life easier, or really learn to talk up your wins. Like, not talk up every single small win, but put them together in a Word document and note down all your wins, so when you have the opportunity to talk about how well you're doing, you're not just going, oh yeah, I'm helping everyone, and I've you're making it far more specific that I improved profitability by so much, or I went above and beyond for the customer in this particular role, and I was able to save them money, or really sell what you do well, rather than just being the bubbly person that helps everyone and isn't really, you're an all-rounder without really being able to show your specific wins and your actual strengths.
So do you think your lack of willingness to compete with your brother sort of translated into your career?
Yeah, always put everyone else first. Just sit back in the shadows and do everything without really promoting myself as how capable and intelligent I actually was. I just sat back and was the all rounder, did everything to make everyone happy without actually promoting what I could do well and what I could have actually offered organisations if I promoted myself, because ultimately your career is you should look at it as self-promotion with your skills and ability, and if you can't promote yourself, who can you actually promote? So
do you think that sort of reflection has come about as you've gotten older? Do you think you could have had that same sort of thought pattern when you were a bit younger?
I wish I did. I wish I did. So I think over the last few years, going what I've gone through, you kind of learn to do a lot of self-reflection and, what could I have done differently? Even how did I get this horrible illness? That, was it something I did? So you do a lot of self-reflection and coming to terms with life that was, life that is, what life that will be. And I think, I've done a lot of kind of reflection. I went, I could have done better in some places, and I really could have promoted myself more, or not helped everyone at my own detriment. So it's definitely something that I look back and go, oh, could have improved there.
So speaking about what you've gone through in the last few years, so not that long ago you were diagnosed with chronic inflammatory demyelinating neuropathy. So I'm hoping I'm saying that right, or CID short.
Yeah, polyneuropathy, because we don't want just one, we want multiple.
Okay, okay. Polyneuropathy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get you to explain that in a bit more detail in a minute. But it's really turned your world upside down. So from my understanding, it's quite a rare neurological disorder that leads to progressive weakness and impaired sensory function in your legs and arms. So can you tell me a little bit more about this disorder?
So in layman's terms, it's the nerve endings, big and small, in your arms and legs, fraying like an electrical cord. And if an electrical cord frays, it doesn't work properly and your appliance doesn't work. So basically, my nerve endings in arms and legs are fraying, and I don't feel. I have altered sensation, I don't feel hot, cold correctly. I can't hold things. I drop things all the time just because there's not the sensory neuro pathway that tells the brain that, yes, you've got hold of your phone or the tub of yogurt in the fridge. The amount of yogurt I've dropped out of my fridge is becoming a bit ridiculous just because I don't know I'm holding it. So I drop it all the time.
And so how did the disorder sort of progress with you? Did it come on suddenly, or was it something that took a little bit of time and you knew that you weren't quite right, but you weren't quite sure?
Yeah, so I broke my back in 2008, of all things. So I had a compressed disc at L5S1. So I knew what it was like to feel nerve damage because my legs were cold and they weren't correct. So I had my spine surgery done, feet went warm again. I'm like, this is brilliant. And then about 18 months later, I started not feeling my feet properly. Like, it started off with like feeling like you had like a small sports sock on, and then it just kept progressing up to like a leg warmer for those born in the 80s and 90s. And then it was like, at the moment, it's like I have stockings on the whole time. So like I went to my GP going, my feet don't feel right. Like, they don't feel right. So we looked at MRI. Yep, spine's fine. And then you just started the barrage of testing to try and, it was a process of elimination rather than a process of diagnosis.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I was,
sorry, Jenny.
I was lucky I had a really good GP who was going to find out what was wrong with me no matter what. And I don't think if I had the GP I had at the time that it would have gone as smoothly, but she was adamant and she believed that something was wrong. We just had to work out what.
So any neurological disorder, it generally just takes a long time to be able to find what exactly the problem is. So how did you cope with having to go through those sort of barrage of tests and everything? And then when you finally got the diagnosis, what did you think? How did you feel?
The diagnosis period was about 9 months from start to, okay, yes, you have CIDP. So I always expected test results to come back normal. So, I had a nerve cut out of my foot to make sure there was no nerve disease. That came back with no nerve disease. I had a lumbar puncture. It came back relatively normal, or my bloods would come back normal. My CRP levels, which is your inflammation markers, would always come back a little bit high, but you have that if you've got the slightest of cold or you're not feeling, you've got a little bit of infection. So it was really, really hard constantly getting you're normal. And at the same time, I'm like, but I'm not normal. There's something wrong. So when we did finally get to the process of elimination down to CIDP, I remember when I got the diagnosis, it was great that we finally had a term, we had something to call it, but then it was also Dr. Google's telling me this isn't great, and GP and neurologist are kind of going, well, sorry, but so it was bittersweet that yes, there was something wrong with me, but I've got this for life now. It's not actually going away.
Yes, I can see how you'd be really conflicted with, obviously you've got validation that the things that you've been saying that are wrong, there is actually a reason. But when there's such a severe reason for it, how did you deal with that emotionally?
Badly, to be honest, badly to begin with. So I fought it, even though I finally had the diagnosis I'd been waiting for 9 months. I fought it, going, if I just ignore it, it'll go away and, everything will be fine again. So while I fought it, I actually made myself worse because I wasn't accepting of it. So once my psychologist and I, God bless her cotton socks, she's put up with a lot. So once she got me to accepting and understanding that, yes, this is it. Yes, this is shit. And yes, it's long term and there are very bad worst case scenarios. Once I got to the acceptance stage, because it's a process of grief that you have to go through. So I'd gone through the grief process and then it was like, okay, yep, this is life. This is me. Let's just do this and do this as best we can. And once I came to the acceptance, I felt a lot better because I stopped being so angry at myself because there was just so much anger towards me from myself because it was just like, this isn't fair. How dare you do this to me? I've done nothing but look after you and you do this to me in return. So it was hard, and yeah, acceptance was the key, and it took a while to get there because even though I'd finally got the diagnosis, at the same time it's just like, I don't want it. This isn't right.
Yeah. So you're working at the time, and then you've subsequently left work because of the prognosis.
Yeah.
So how difficult was it to be able to face the fact that your career had effectively ended?
I actually changed employers mid-diagnosis. I rocked up for a job interview Monday morning. It went really well, and I knew I had to drop this bombshell in the middle of it somehow. And they're like, oh, you're going back to work, or if you called in sick. And I turned around and said, well, I'm actually going to hospital for 5 days this afternoon. And their jaws like dropped and hit the desk, and they're like, oh, what? And so I explained what I knew about the condition, and, it was progressive. And they were just like, oh, okay, well, hope all goes well, because what else do you say to someone? But then the state manager actually rang me after. It was the Anzac Day long weekend, so he rang me the following week going, hey, hope hospital went well and how you feeling? Do you mind if we ask you a few more questions about your condition? Because like I wasn't going to hide it. I couldn't hide it.
Yeah.
It was like, obviously I'd accepted the fact that I had it. So it was just like, well, this is me. If you employ me, you're employing my chronic illness. So, I had a little bit of a chat, and he was just like, okay, well, how much time are you going to have to need off work? And I said, probably once a month to go to hospital, maybe a few appointments during the month in lunch breaks and stuff. And he was like, yep, fine, no worries. They employed me. I started work on a Wednesday. I ended up in hospital on the Sunday for a whole week. So nothing like calling in sick for a week in your first week. But, they were really good and understanding. So then 4 years later, it just got too much and I had to call stumps on it, which was hard.
So do you think that was like another grieving process that you had to go through?
Yes, and once again, I was ignoring it. Wasn't quite ready to face the fact that life was becoming too difficult. So I was working and I was sleeping, and I knew that it wasn't good and it wasn't right. And I remember I finished work on the 3rd of December and I rocked up to my psychologist on the 4th of December. And she's like, what are you doing here? It's midweek. And it's like, I don't work anymore. And she just went, okay, I knew this conversation was coming. Didn't expect it today. So my medical team knew the end was coming, but with everything, they supported me along the way because they knew work was so important to me. So everything we did was basically to keep me at work, no matter the cost. And as soon as I said, I don't go to work anymore, they went, okay, excellent. This is good. So they were preparing and waiting for me to catch up.
So had they sort of told you that that's what was going to happen, or did they sort of just let you come to the realization yourself that that was the path it was going to go down?
They left it to me because obviously I'm the one that knows my body best. So, they left it to me, but always supported my goals and wishes and worked in around working full-time as best as possible. And my neurologist would always say to me, she's like, I don't actually know how you do it, Jen. Because, then I throw the curveball of, I'm building a house, because that's the most natural thing to do. When you're working full-time, you have a chronic illness, which is a part-time job, and then you go, I'm going to build a house. So, I think they were relieved when I went, I have left the workforce, because they knew that I had finally realised that it was just all too much and I wasn't coping and my body wasn't coping. So, they left it up to me to come to that realisation, but they were all standing in the wings going, this is just going to end badly eventually.
So speaking about sort of building a house, you were very strategic in setting up a home to be able to accommodate any sort of deterioration in your health. Yeah. So at what point did you decide to do that?
It was actually my mum that helped me do that, because thanks, Mum, you helped me. I realised, and I talked to her about it, that if I was unable to work, the benefit I would receive from Centrelink wouldn't allow me to actually pay rent. So she's like, well, ultimately, if I'm going to have to help you with housing security, I'd prefer it to be your own home than paying off someone else's. So I started the process of, okay, well, first homeowners grant, what was she willing to help me with? And I knew the house design I wanted, and I accidentally bought a house and land package on my way home from the shops one day. So I was, went to buy a friend a birthday present. I was like, no, I'll just swing past the display homes, just see if the one I like is still able to be built. And next minute, Jenny's down the road at the land sales office buying a block of land and then back up the hill to the home builders and buying a house, and then going home and ringing mum going, so whoops, help. But we knew it was the best long-term option for me. So, because ultimately, if I couldn't work, I wasn't able to survive on Centrelink, and there would be no option for me to go back to Newcastle where I came from and live with mum. And she's like, I don't want you living with me. So we knew that. Thanks, mum. So we knew it was the best option for me. So then it was just like the house plan I've built. It's got bedrooms and a front living area at one end. There's the kitchen in the middle, and then master bedroom and main lounge room out the back. So should I ever need a full-time live-in carer, they have their own end of the house. I have my own end of the house, and we don't need to interact 24/7. So I was a little bit smart about that. And my OT actually calls my house a dream house for an OT because I thought of everything. So gripping's an issue for the condition long term. So all the door handles you can slide your fingers down and pull out, as opposing to hold on to a knob and grip and pull. And I've got a hobbler shower, so there's no doors or steps. A shower chair fits in it. You can put a commode over the toilet. There's tiles with a little bit of grip, so I can feel it if my feet are wet. The kitchen's wide enough to have a wheelchair in there. So yeah, I basically thought of worst case scenario and what would I need long term to stay in the house. So there's not a step anywhere. It's all one level. It's all internal access to cars and things like that. So I had to be smart because this is my house and you don't change houses every few years. So I was smart about it and did all the right things. So I had
just to clarify for everybody, an OT is an occupational therapist. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
So did you consult with them with regards to the design aspects of your house, or did you just sort of know that this is sort of what you're going to need down the track?
No, I did it all by myself because I'm stubborn and independent and refuse to ask for help. So, I had done all the research online about the condition, long-term ramifications of the disability, and I'd spoken to a neurologist, obviously. So I knew what was required. And a friend of mine, her mum, who's like my Queensland mum, she came with me to choose everything. So she's a nurse, so she knew what to look for as well. So between us, we did a really good job. So, my stubborn independentness, her nurse knowledge, we worked out everything that we needed to make the house as livable as possible for as long as possible.
So what would your advice be to people with regards to setting yourself up, financially, whether or not you're healthy or otherwise?
Be smart about your money, because I have learnt without your health, you have nothing. So no amount of money is going to help you if you have a chronic illness. So with my mortgage, I paid an extra $30 or $40 a week into it, which isn't a lot. It's a couple of cups of coffee. It's taking your own lunch from home a couple of days a week as opposed to buying it every day. And that $30 or $40 a week actually saved me when I had to wait the 90 days for my income protection to kick in, because I rang Westpac and went, help, I don't work anymore. I'm on Centrelink until income protection kicks in. And they were just like, okay, well, you're 2 months ahead. Like, what's your problem? Like, okay. So then, you don't miss the small amounts of money if you just pop it away. Like if you've got a mortgage, pop it into that. Or if you've got a savings account, just save a little bit of money every week, because it could be the difference between being homeless or being able to negotiate with a bank to stay in your house. So,
Yeah.
you know, everyone doesn't blink an eye at spending $5, $10, $15 a day on takeaway coffees, but that $10 a day into a bank account, it's easy.
Yeah, definitely expect the unexpected, because I don't think anybody, especially somebody of your sort of age group, would ever expect that you'd be in the position that you found yourself in.
Oh God,
Um,
no. If you asked me 10 years ago, 20 years ago, would I be living the single life in Queensland with a chronic illness, I would have looked at you and went, nah. And so you have to expect the unexpected, especially financially in these days. Like, I think if COVID's taught us anything, it's to appreciate what you have, and family and health mean everything. And you know, you don't need to go out for your brunches and your lunches and your dinners to appreciate what you've got. So, and as I said earlier, your health is everything. You can have millions of dollars in the bank, but if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So people need to appreciate that.
Now, you don't have any family in Queensland, but you do have a really close-knit group of friends who have rallied around you during this
Yes.
time. Could you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about them and how important that network has been to you throughout all this?
They're the true heroes of all of this. They've put up with angry me, grumpy me, sad me, and they've always just been there to go, come on, Jen, you can do this. It'll be fine. Um, so each of them have all played a role, probably without them even realizing, to keep me alive. Well, maybe alive's a little bit dramatic, but you know, they've all been there just to chat to me via text or take me out for a coffee. And one of them actually has one of my credit cards, because beginning of COVID, I still don't go to supermarkets because people are germy. So one of my friends has a credit card of mine so she could go shopping to get me groceries each week. And, you know, she's like, you know, I'll just get your groceries. It's fine. Like, I can drop it off. So every week I send her my grocery list, and then my groceries turn up on my door. Um,
Personal
all,
shop.
all meal prepped, ready to go into the air fryer. It's amazing. So yeah, like, they've just been there to support me and encourage me and to drive me to doctor's appointments, to, you know, just support me along the way. And without them, my journey would have been a lot harder. So, you know, they took my mind off the fact that I had a body falling apart. They, you know, they treat me no differently in a way, and their understanding of my limitations. So my friendship circle actually shrank a lot, because I couldn't go hiking on a weekend. I didn't want to go to the club because I can't drink because of medication. And being a sober person hanging around drunk people is not fun. So, yeah, like, I really learnt who my friends were, and they're the ones who have been the heroes of all of this to keep me on track, and have been especially good through COVID. And I think a lot of them have reached an understanding of what my life is, because everyone's stuck at home, can't go anywhere, and I'm just living the life. And I'm how do you cope? It's like, well, this is my life. COVID hasn't changed my life. And so they've got a new appreciation of my life. But yeah, they've just always been there to support me, and they are my family, and I can never repay them for everything they've done to help me. And they'll say, oh, we do it because we're your friends. It's like, but you don't have to. And I'm very thankful and appreciative of everything that they've done.
Yeah, look, I'm sure that they absolutely love doing it for you, because I know that you would have been an absolutely fantastic friend to them. So it's, you know, it's really good that you've been able to have that close knit friend group that can help you. And I think
Yeah.
it also goes to show that, you know, you can have, you know, 1,000 Facebook friends, but when it comes down to it, you've probably only got, you know, a number of people that will actually really go the distance for you when your chips are down so much.
Yeah, definitely. You find out who your true friends are when you're going through hard times or struggles, and they probably don't realize the impact they've had on my life. And I'd like to think that should their chips be down, that I'm able to help them out. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. But yeah, and you see people in a different light when you're well, I have to call myself disabled now because I am. So yeah, you see how empathetic people are, and I think that's something that the world loses. And yeah, my little group of friends, it may be small, but it's quality. And
Mm.
because I just don't have time for people or the energy to be fake with people. And that's what I appreciate most about my group of friends. They're empathetic, but they also tell me to snap out of it if I'm having a pity party or a pity festival, if as my psychologist likes to call it. You can have a pity party, but the gazebo comes down at night and we pack it up. We don't have a festival.
That's
So
fantastic advice, because sometimes it really is a perpetuating cycle of unhappiness and feeling sorry for yourself. And
yeah,
I don't think anybody would begrudge you that feeling, but you can't be in that state of mind all the time. So to have
yeah,
somebody be able to snap you out of it is, critical, I think, to anybody that's sort of going through any sort of chronic illness or injury or anything like that.
yeah. Like you've got to let the person have their moment, let the person have their sad day on the couch to process whatever it is they're going through or has happened in their life. But yeah, you've got to take the gazebo down because a pity festival achieves nothing. So pack that gazebo away.
Now, look, I know we spoke at the start of the episode with respect to your brother and you not wanting to compete with him, but you
Yeah.
seem to have developed quite a competitive streak. Um,
Yeah.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, my support worker, I accidentally told her that I would probably qualify as a Paralympian. So, we're now in the process. I still laugh at this story because I still can't believe I'm on this journey, but um, I roll my eyes a lot at the millennial. I'm actually in the process of being classified to become a para athlete in para powerlifting. So I'm actually, for someone who has no nerve function in arms and legs, I'm actually ridiculously strong. So yes, Paralympics, yo. We're not doing Tokyo 2021. We're not doing Birmingham Commonwealth Games 2022. Paris 2024 is off. Maybe we'll go Los Angeles 2028, where I'll be the ripe old age of 46. But um, as my para powerlifting coach said, it's a good 10 years from start of training to the peak of your career. So watch this space. Where on the journey, we'll see where it goes. And I'm a little bit competitive now. So look out, Green and Gold Army. The go-kart of dreams is coming at you.
Now, do you find that that has given you some sort of motivation to just keep pushing through and to keep striving to be better?
Yes. So I was actually talking to Lee, my coach, and this is the one thing I can do that actually proves that my body isn't completely useless. I may not be able to open my cat's little food pouches every morning, but I can go and leg press 200 kilos without a problem. I can go bench 50 kilos without a problem, and I can prove that my body can actually do something positive whilst I'm losing the fine motor skills. I'm losing feeling in my feet. It's still something I can go out and achieve, which is a big thing to be able to work towards something.
Absolutely, and hats off to you. And I hope that you're able to sort of stick your tongue out at your brother when he's at
Yes.
those Paralympics.
He doesn't actually know about my Paralympic dream. So, hey, bro,
Really?
I'm going to the Olympics.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. But before I let you go, I've got one last question for you. What would you do differently if only you knew?
Stood up for myself and promoted myself and actually followed what I loved as opposed to what I was good at. Because if I was going to end up where I am today, at least if I did what I loved, I wouldn't be looking back with regret.
So do you think that as well is a bit of a driving force for you having the ambition that you've got with regards to training? So you don't, because nobody really wants to look back on their life with regret. And I think sometimes when you do have a chronic illness, it's easy to sort of do that and say, I would have done this and I would have done that. But do you think that having this sort of ambition is replacing that time in your life where you didn't sort of back yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Because I'm going through the process of chronic illness to disability I'm doing everything I possibly can in terms of rehab, medical treatments, all the things that I need to do to manage my condition as well as I can. I'm leaving no stone unturned. I'm doing everything I can. And if I do end up in a wheelchair with someone needing to feed me, well, that's fine. I know I've gone through and done the best I can. I've achieved everything I could. And I'll have a gold medal at Los Angeles 2028 to hang on my wall. And yeah, I will know that I've got the drive and determination to do everything I possibly can to improve my life as much as I can now, because what else is there to do, really?
Well, look, Jenny, well done. And I really admire the ability for you to be able to hit this head on and to look forward into the future and to, not let it get you down too much. I know that some days, you don't have the best of days, but to be able to look forward and to be positive and to show people that despite adversity, there is things to look forward to and you can maintain that, positive outlook on life. So thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's been fun, except for the high school questions. Otherwise, it's been good.
So if you'd like to know more about Jenny, you can follow her on Instagram at Good Bad Olympiad. And if you're interested in donating to further research and support for CIDP and other neurological disorders, you can head to brainfoundation.org.au or gbs-cidp.org. Links to these organisations will be available on my website, ifonlyyouKnewpodcast.com.au. Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks, Christy.
Thanks, Grant.